Greater than, less than, equal to. Greater than, less than, equal to.
These symbols are the ones you use for greater than, less than, and equal to.
Greater than, less than, equal to.
Once upon a time there was a hungry alligator. He loved to eat numbers, so he figured out a way to always get the biggest bite when the numbers were there. He would stop for a second, take a look and compare. Whichever number was the biggest of the two was the one that he would eat. So just to review, here's the main thing to know about the hungry alligator. He always eats the number that's greater.
Greater. Greater than, less than, equal to.
Well, greetings once again, Algebra 1 students. We're here now looking in at Chapter 2 of the Algebra 1 book from Big Ideas. This is 2.1, and our title here is Writing and Graphing Inequalities. And that video was a little intro to inequalities, showing us greater than and less than symbols. So we're going to see these inequality symbols. We're going to learn how to write and graph inequalities today. All right, let's go ahead and look at our little cartoon of the day first, though. So it's at a football game. It says, "Whoa, don't try to be a hero. It's too late for Dan. Let this be a lesson. Do not leap into the bleachers after scoring a touchdown." So apparently Dan, there he is. You can see his legs. His helmet's flying up in the air. Where all the women are going crazy over Dan, I guess. I don't know. Tearing into pieces. All right. Let's move into our vocabulary, and we'll see our vocabulary start on page 30 in our notes. And first vocabulary is just what is an inequality. And so we should know what an equality is. Equality would be when it's equal, but an inequality was when it is not equal. And so instead of using an equal symbol, as we saw in chapter 1, we were doing equations, which were, using an equal sign there because we had one side, the left side was equal to the right side. Well, now we're looking at inequalities where the sides are not equal. One side is going to be greater than the other side, or one side is going to be less than the other side. And so we use these inequality symbols to help us describe that. Instead of the equal sign for inequalities, we use one of these four signs here. And so you can see them up here. For what you want to write down, I would just write down that an inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares expressions, and we're going to compare them using these symbols. So it says to write an inequality, look at the following phrases to determine what inequality symbol you would use. And so on page 30 you have the core concept, and the one that's in words there already has really the first one of these. The first bullet of each one is already given to you right there, but I want you to write down there's more than just one way to describe these symbols, and you might see it sometimes written these other ways. And so you want to write that underneath here. So right here, this first one is less than. So that's like the first one here, is less than. X is less than. So is less than you already have, which is right here. But then you want to put also this one underneath. So put this next bullet here, is fewer than as well. So is less than, is fewer than. That's using this symbol. As you can see, the symbol is also given to you next to it, and you see that symbol. Then on the next one, we already have the is greater than. That's the first one. But I want you to write underneath that is more than. So there's another bullet point to just write underneath there on page 30. So is more than needs to go underneath is greater than. Those two mean the same thing. We would use this symbol to do that. Now these were the symbols that were on the video, but these two are not on the video. Here's one where we have a little line underneath that inequality. So that basically puts an equal sign and these inequalities together into one symbol. So if we're also equal to as well, we're less than or equal to, we're going to use this symbol. And so that's why it says here is less than or equal to. But there's two other ways we might be able to see that. We might also see it as is at most. You want to write that underneath here. So x is at most 2. That would be another way of describing this symbol, less than or equal to. And also this one as well, is no more than. So we also put that one underneath there as well. Is no more than is another one you might see using this same symbol. And then we have this other one which says is greater than or equal to, so it's putting the greater than sign together with an equal sign. You already have that first one, but then underneath, write is at least. So that's going to be going underneath here. Is at least. X is at least 2. We'll be using this symbol, greater than or equal to symbol. Or is no less than. There's another way you might describe it as well. So write those down underneath these words ones here that is in that core concept on page 30. And if you need a little more time, just go ahead and pause the video at this point and then get these copied down right there on 30 and then go ahead and play it for our next part. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and have you watch these here. So you can just watch these on this one. Letter A through C, we're just going to write each sentence as an inequality. And so these are in your book as well if you wanted to check them out in your book. But this first one says a number W minus 3.5 is less than or equal to negative 2. We want to write an inequality for that. So this, when you look at these sentences here, this is a sentence, an inequality sentence. And as we're going to write this, you need to see it in 3 portions, 3 parts. There are always 3 parts to it. So this shows you the 3 different parts and it colors them for us nice and neatly. So the first part is the number W minus 3.5. Second part would be the is less than or equal to, and then the other part is going to be the negative 2. So the one thing to always look for first, always identify first, is your inequality part. That's right here, is less than or equal to. That's the red part. Well, the other part is in front of it, and the other one's behind it. So there's the other 2 are in front and behind that red part. So the part that's in front is this blue part with number W minus 3.5, and what's after it's in green, just a negative 2. So now we just translate each one of these into the symbols that we need to use. Obviously, we're going to use W as a variable. So W minus that, we can just say is W minus 3.5, like this. There's our symbol now for the is less than or equal to. Remember, less is kind of like an L shape in that way. And then you just have the negative 2. And now that's our inequality. So there it is. W minus 3.5 is less than or equal to negative 2. That's what we'd want to write as that answer. This is translating it from a sentence in words into a more mathematical inequality for us. And now letter B, here's we can see now we want to identify where is the middle part. That's going to be our inequality part. That's the is less than right there. Is less than part. That's going to be it. It stops there because it doesn't say or equal to or anything. It's just the is less than. And so there you could see it. Red is less than. In front of that red part is the 3. Behind that red part is the number n plus 5. And now we have a 3. The is less than. Less is again going this way. And then just n plus 5. There it is. And now you just write that out as the inequality statement. 3 less than n plus 5. You're done. And now the next one, C, where's the middle part? That would be in red here for these. So you got 0 is greater than or equal to twice a number x plus 1. So there's the red part right here. Is greater than or equal to, right there. That's what's red. In front of it's 0. Behind it is the twice a number x plus 1. So there you go. It's the red part. So we start off with a 0. We're going to start with greater than or equal to. That's going to go that direction now. Greater than or equal to has a little line underneath it. And then twice a number, x, so that's 2 times x, or 2x, plus a 1. That's what you say, 2x plus a 1 there. So you're 0, you're greater than or equal to 2x plus 1, and there it is. All right, let's go ahead and try some on our extra practice part. Yeah, it's going to be on the next page. All right, so on page 31, starting with number 1, I want you to go ahead and just try this one and see if you can do it. Underline that middle part there where the inequality is, so you can see in front of that and then behind that, and then see if you can write that out. So go ahead and just pause the video quickly and do that. Okay, so hopefully you underlined the correct part. So it says 12 is greater than or equal to 5 times the number n. So your middle part here, which I'm underlining in red, is the is greater than or equal to. That's going to give us our inequality. So in front of that is 12. So we're going to start off by putting 12 is greater than. Okay, so greater than is going to go this direction, like opening towards the 12, as your alligator opening to 12, and also a little line underneath it as well. And then over here you have 5 times a number n, so 5 times n is just a 5n. And there's your what you have, that's it. So hopefully that's what you were able to get and you did that correctly. Alright, so go ahead and try the next one. Go ahead and pause the video, do the next one. Okay, so our next one here, 1/3 of a number h is less than 15. So the part that you should have underlined here is the is less than right there. That's your middle part. So in front of this is 1/3 of a number h. Now anytime you see the word of, that always means to multiply. So you might want to just highlight there and show that's multiply right there. 1/3 of a number h, so 1/3 times, you can think of that as 1/3 times the number h. So that's just going to be a 1/3 h, like that. Then you have your inequality is less. So that's your L-shaped, okay, going the other way. So the arrow of this is pointing to this one, and then you just have your 15 on the other side, and there it is. All right, try number 3. Go ahead and pause the video and see if you can write this one correctly. Okay, so hopefully you got an answer for this one. Again, we're looking for that middle part. 7 is less than or equal to the difference of a number q and 6. So the is less than or equal to, that's the part you want to underline right there. So in front of that is a 7, so we want to put 7 down. Is less than or equal to is the L-shaped one and going with a line underneath it because it's equal to as well. So less than or equal to, so it's got to have both. And then the difference means subtraction, so you're subtracting. Difference of q and 6 is q minus 6. So it's just q minus 6, there it is. And try our last one, number 4. Go ahead and pause the video again and do this last one. Okay, so hopefully you are looking for what you're going to underline here. The sum of a number u and 14 is more than 6. So the is more than part is the part you want to underline. That's again, it doesn't say greater, this time it says more. Still means greater though. Is more than means is greater than. So in front of that is the sum of u and 14. That's just going to be u plus 14. Then you have your greater than symbol. There's no equal to on this one. It's just greater than. And then the number 6, and you got it done. So hopefully you're able to do those correctly and you kind of understand this now at this point. All right, let's move on to our next part. All right, so we're back on page 30 with a couple more vocabulary words here. So we have a solution of an inequality. So now we've talked about an inequality using those inequality symbols, and now a solution of an inequality. And we know that when we did the equations, our solution of the equation was always the number that would make the equation a true statement. And that's still going to be true here. And you can write down for the solution of an inequality, it's a value that makes the inequality true. That's how you know you have a solution to the inequality. And then it says down here, an inequality can have more than one solution. So because it's not just an equal sign, and when it's equal, it usually just has the one solution. But when it's an inequality, it has more of a range of solutions. So when things are greater or less, it's going to be having more of a range of solutions than not just one single solution. We're definitely going to be able to see the picture of that as we graph those. But here's some down here you can kind of see. Also, you want to see solution set's another one of your vocabulary words. When we talk about solution set, that would be the set of all the solutions that you could have. And so you can write that down there in your vocabulary. So if this was what we're talking about here, the value of x is -6. Here's the inequality. If we plugged a -6 in just to check that, is the inequality true? So we could say -6 plus 5 is a -1. -1 is greater than -2, and yes, that is true. Okay, and then we could try -7 for the same inequality and see if that's true. So if we plug -7 in for x, -7 plus 5 is -2. Is -2 greater than or equal to -2? Yes, that also is true because of the equal sign there. And then we try -8. -8 plus 5 is a -3. -3 is not greater than -2. So this one definitely is no. So you can see this one had these two solutions, but it didn't have this one. So other solutions that we could have seen here would be anything that would be even on this side. So we have -6, -5 would have been a solution, -4, -2, and so on. Everything basically on the positive side of a number line would have been a correct solution. And it really does have an infinite amount of solutions, as these set of solutions can be an infinite amount. Sometimes it's a limited amount, but other times it's an infinite amount. All right, let's go on to our next part. Okay, so on page 31, number 5 and 6, just to ask us to tell whether the value of a solution here is true. So tell whether the value is a solution of the inequality. And we're talking about what we mean value. Well, here's our inequality right here. D minus 7 is less than 12. The value they give us for D to check is 19. So we're just going to check 19. So it's like checking your solution. So if we said, okay, 19 is the answer for D, does that make this inequality true? So we want to plug 19 in for D and then see if one side is if this left side is going to be less than 12. And so that's what we'll do there. So you just plug it in, 19 minus 7, and then you have less than 12. And then we want to say 19 minus 7 is the number 12. So we want to now ask ourselves, is 12 less than 12? And obviously it's not less than 12. It's equal to 12. It's not less. The number can't be less than itself. So this would actually be false. So since that's a false statement, then we can say no, it's not a solution. This value 19 is not a solution to this inequality. Let's check this one over here. Our number they want us to check is 1, n equals 1. Here's the inequality 9 greater or equal to 3n plus 6. We're going to plug in 1 right here, multiply it by 3, then add 6, and then see if that here is really less than 9, because the mouth of your alligator is opening towards the 9, so 9 is supposed to be greater than, or it could be equal to, this number over here. So as we plug it in, 9 greater than or equal to, 3 times 1 is 3, and so it's going to be 3 plus 6. 3 plus 6 is 9. So is 9 greater than or equal to 9? And yes, that is true because it has the equal sign here. So we can say yes on this one. It is true. And so yes, it's a solution. All right, so that's all you're doing on these ones. It should be fairly simple. Just check to see if it is a true statement. If it's true, then it's a solution. If it's false, though, then it's not a solution. All right, so let's do a little joke of the day at this point. So the question is, why does your nose run? Ever thought about that? Why does your nose run? Everything well is because of allergies or because I got a cold. No, it's because it can't walk. Your nose can't walk, so it runs. All right, so back on page 30 for our last vocabulary for this lesson, it just says here the graph of an inequality. What is it? When we talk about a graph of an inequality, so what a graph of an inequality does is it shows the solution set of an inequality on a number line, and that's what you can write down. Graph of an inequality shows the solution set of an inequality on a number line. Now it's going to use two different types of holes because we have two different types of symbols. You have greater than or less than symbols, that's one type, and then you also have the one where they're also equal to. So if it's going to be where it's not equal to, you're going to use an open circle like this right here. That's going to be used when the number is not a solution, when that actual number is not a solution. You're going to use a closed circle like this one here on your number line when the number actually is a part of the solution. So these ones are going to be used when it's just greater than or less than symbols like here, less than, greater than, those kind of symbols like those two. But if it's the equal to, it's got these equal to's on them, then that's going to be definitely closed. So here's a few examples here of what we're trying to do. We're going to graph these on a number line. So y is less than or equal to -3. So you can see what it's going to look like there. It's going to be, since it has the equal to, it's one of these, we're using a solid hole. So at that number, at the -3, on a number line, we're going to put a solid hole. And then it says y is less than that. Less than would be everything to the left of this. So everything to the left. Now you might be thinking, well, I can just shade it the way the arrow kind of points. That's true as long as your variable is first. And if your variable is not first, like this next one, that's not going to be true. So we'll see how this one here is going to be really the other way. So we could see, well, 2 is the number, so you got to put a dot on 2, or a hole on 2. This one's going to be an open hole because there is no equal to. So you can see what that one's going to look like. So at 2, open. But this one, you don't shade it the way the arrow is pointing because x is not first. X is the last one. X is behind here. So what it's really saying is the mouth is open to x. X is actually greater than 2. You really want to read the inequality from wherever x is. So I'm reading it this time kind of the backwards. X is greater than 2. So greater than means everything to the right of 2. 3 is greater, 4 is greater, and so on. And these are infinite. These are infinite solution sets because they keep on going forever positive, or this one's forever negative. Here's x is greater than 0. So we're going to put an open hole, because there's no equal to, open at 0, and it's greater than 0, so it's going to be shaded like this one off to the right, as you can see. There it is, open hole at 0, off to the right. So we just got to shade these. Put the correct hole on there, open or close at the right spot, and then shade the right direction. It's either going to the right or it's going to go to the left. So here is a little quick summary now of what we've been doing. Here's the graph. So we already did this. You saw you put your bullet points underneath there, more words that you can use. Here's the graphs again, and you can see when it's a less than or greater than, you got to use these open holes at that number, so at 2 right there. And then if it's a equal to one, either less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, with those little lines underneath there, that means you got to put a solid hole at that number. And when it's going to be less than, like this is, you always read it from x, x is less than, this one's x is less than or equal to, those less than ones are going to the left. When it's greater than the number, it's going to go shaded off to the right like these two, x is greater than or x is greater than or equal to. Okay, so I want you to go back to now page 28 and 29. So on the bottom of 28 is letter A, and then the top of 29 has B, C, and D. Has these number lines. And all I want you to do is write out what the inequality is. So just write out the inequality, use x, use the inequality sign. It's going to be just like these guys right here. So write out these inequalities. So this is what's given to you, the graph. We're going to say, okay, we're going to say it's got to be the number 2, of course, on all of them. This one is going to be less than, no equal to, just less than. X is less than 2. And this one's going to be less than, but also a little line for equal to, less than or equal to. So do the same thing on these ones right here. And then so go ahead and pause the video and then check to see if your answers are correct. Alright, so hopefully you've done these now. You got answers for A through D. So again, we're using 1 for each one of these. So let's use x again. So this one is greater than and it's equal to. So greater than, equal to the number 1. This one also is greater than but not equal to. So x is just greater than 1. And this one is less than and it's a solid hole or closed, so it's equal to as well. So x is less than or equal to the 1. And this last one is also less than but no equal to, so it's just x is less than the 1. All right, so let's move on to our other extra practice. Let's go ahead and finish off our extra practice, then we'll be done. All right, so at the bottom of page 31, number 7 and 8, here we're going to graph these inequalities. So we're going to do it now where we're given the inequality and we're going to graph it on a number line. So for the first part here, I'll do this first one and then you guys can do the rest of these as we go through. These ones also are on the top of page 32 for 9 and 10. So if we just start with number 7 here, 3 is where we got to go to. So we got to identify, okay, there's 3. Okay, what hole do I need to put at 3? Is it going to be closed or is it going to be open? That's when I look at my inequality symbol, and if it has the little line for equal to, it's going to be closed. So we know we're going to put a closed hole at 3. Now I need to decide, am I going to shade to the right or am I going to shade to the left? This is the greater than side, this is the less than side. Well, x is greater than 3, so I got to shade to the right. So I'm just going to shade everything there to the right, put an arrow on my shading, then it just continues to go to the right. Alright, so go ahead and pause the video and do 8, 9, and 10 and go ahead and play that to check your answers. Alright, so hopefully you have answers for 8, 9, and 10. We're just now checking these. So here's 4. You got to identify 4s over here, way to the end. And so we got to see, we're going to put a closed hole at 4 because it does have the equal to. So there's a closed hole there. And we are going to shade to the left here on this less than side because it says x is less than that number. So that's what you should have for number 8. Number 9, we got to look at -1 as our number, so we're going to be putting a hole here, and this time there's no equal to, so we're going to put an open hole, so just an open circle there, and we're going to shade to the right side because it says x is greater than the -1, so it's shaded off to the right. And then number 10, we're going to go to +1, so +1 is here. The hole that we're going to put on has got to be open because again there's no equal to, just the symbol there, no equal to, so it's an open hole at that number 1. And then we're going to shade to the left because it says x is less than the 1. And so there you go. So there's, hopefully you were able to graph those correctly and that you're not having too much trouble then trying to graph these. One technique, or I guess a little tip again, can be if your variable is first, your shading will be consistent with the way the arrow is pointing. But that is only if your variable is first. If your number is first, then it really is the opposite. So I would just, only look and see that as if your variable is first, then you can kind of look at that as saying, okay, my shading is going this way. But I would always just read it from wherever your variable is. X is less than or equal to 4. So that way you definitely can know and hear that word less than. You know this is the less than side. Greater than side is going in the positive direction. Okay, we are almost done. These are our last 4 here on page 32. We're going to write an inequality that represents the graph, so it's very similar to what we were doing there A through D just a moment ago. So I'm going to give you a chance to try these here, 11 through 14. Go ahead and try to write an inequality for each one, and then play the video to check your answers, and at that point we'll be done. Alright, so hopefully you got an answer now from 11 through 14. So for number 11, your number here is 1. So we're going to start off with x for these. You can use any variable really, but let's just use x. I'm going to use x. The number is 1, but the inequality symbol is going to not have an equal to. It is just going to be, you might want to see, okay, which way does it go first? It's going greater than. So it's greater than, but no equal to. So it's going to be x is just greater than 1. That's it. Just x is greater than 1. We actually had one of those on A through D a minute ago. Number 12, your number here is 0. So we want to say, where's the shading going? The shading is going to the left. It's less than. So x is less than, and there's no equal to. So it's just x is less than 0. For number 13, we're at -3 here, and we're going to the right, which is greater than. So it's going to be greater than, and it does have an equal to because of the solid closed hole here. It does equal -3 as well. So it's going to be x is greater than or equal to this number -3. So it should look like that. X is greater than or equal to -3. And then number 14, +3. And it's going to the left, so it's less than, and it is also equal to with the closed hole. So our answer for this one should be x is less than or equal to +3. All right, so we are done with 2.1. So you should be ready now. I'll see you on 2.2 as we continue on with our inequality section.